All right, some TensorFlow headaches. Some TensorFlow headaches. So one of them is that, again, right, Google maybe doesn't invest in sort of really good API design as much as we might want them to do. One frustration is that there are a bunch of different ways to do everything. So if you look up tutorials, you will see like every tutorial will find some different clever way to do the thing you want to do. It becomes frustrating. So building our model is a basic example of this. One trivial thing that we could do is we can specify the activation in the layer, right? So here is an even more concise way to write that model, right? So why not always do this? Why didn't I do this? Because, man, this is really short and really easy to read, and it'd be real easy to change. Well, not all activations can be written this way. And in fact, the important LRelu, which saying LRelu tells you nothing, but I guess saying leaky relu also tells you nothing, right? But the important leaky rectified linear unit cannot be written this way. It has to be written as a separate layer, right? And we're going to want to use those, which is why I wrote the networks like this rather than like this, right? Good habits early. We also support a functional style. I could have written the network like this, right? So here what I'm doing is I'm still creating keras.layers, right? All of these are keras.layers. But here I'm calling each one like a function on the previous layer, right? So this is the same layer constructor, but it's instead of, right? It's not inside of, what did they call it? It's not called feed forward, it's called S something. Sequential. Instead of putting it inside of a sequential constructor, right, we're just creating these things out in our code and then calling each one on the previous layer, right? Create, call. Create, call. Create, call. This is the functional style, right? So finally I get my output. Notice I gave my input a different name. Then I build a keras.model and specify the input and output layers. So this might seem really bizarre, right? Why? So what is happening? We construct a class and then we call it like a function on another instance of itself? What? The reason that we do this is because the functional API can handle models that are complicated in ways that the sequential cannot, right? Another thing we'll see later is we might want to build networks with shortcuts. Right? Shortcut connections. You can't do that easily with the sequential. You have to use the functional style to define this network. Oh, right. And note that our model remains callable, right? We can still call these just like we could call them before. Okay. Hopefully, after all of this, you still think the TensorFlow code is going to be a lot easier than the NumPy code was. I told some of you that you would hate me for making you do all of that math and theory stuff when TensorFlow was going to end up being this easy. I thought it was important that TensorFlow not be magical, right? I really, really pathologically hate magical results. I really wanted you to have a working understanding of why, right? What is happening? What is being automated? And why, right? Hopefully, you agree with me that that was worth it. And that, which happened a lot quicker than I expected it to, I think, is our introduction to TensorFlow. So before we're done this week, I am going to show you that whole program running.